Today I'm going to talk about the elderly. It seems like after cycle lane and active transportation opponents exhaust all their other arguments that are really awful, and one of the final ones they come up with is, what about the elderly? Elderly can't ride bikes everywhere. Why are we putting in cycle lanes for these poor elderly people? As if that they actually care significantly about elderly people. I think the reason they bring that up is because they don't ride, they don't want to ride or walk, they don't envision themselves doing it, so they ascribe to others their behavior. And when we talk about children, when we talk about people who want to, they say, okay, fine, children, okay, fine, people, adults that want to ride, but what about the elderly? We got to make sure we do whatever we can for the elderly, because the only way they can get around is by driving. These poor, pathetic elderly people. All right. I can tell you from leading my bike group and interacting with lots of other bike groups that many of the elderly want to bike, want to get around actively, and in fact, for many, it's often the only source of exercise, and for many, it's their only source of connection with the community around them. It provides an opportunity for them to get out and about. Somebody today said, well, elderly can't go grocery shopping in the rain. They can't do it. They can't do it. And I think the thing that people forget about the elderly is most of them are retired. And most of them pick and choose when they leave the house, whether it's by car or by bike or walking. You know, whatever the reason they have, if they're going grocery shopping, they're going to do it at a time where there's not a lot of people, or a time of day that's convenient and the weather's good. Many older folks that I know will wait a couple days before they go out and get some errands done, because they have the time, because they have the options, because they have a choice. Well, they have the options, they have the time option. But the other thing I found with my bike group is that many of those people have never ridden on our roads. They'll maybe drive, in the past, or have somebody drive them down to a recreational trail and drop them off, but they often don't feel comfortable cycling on our city streets because they're not protected. Many of them have never gone over the high bridge, even though that's specific where they're supposed to go and they're not supposed to go on the footpath. Many have never gone through a roundabout because it's scary and intimidating. And the reason it's intimidating is because so few people do it. There's so little infrastructure. It's just astounding to me that people will use that sort of logic for the elderly and disabled. I've got people who ride trikes, electric trikes, as their primary source of exercise. I think people need to understand when one of the concepts of being physically limited is being physically limited. Meaning, there's not a lot of options out there for people to get their exercise in the same way. They're not working in physical jobs anymore. They're not usually living on lifestyle blocks or where they need to do lots of physical activity. They often have injuries or issues that don't allow them to do more intense, more significant weight-bearing exercises or athletic endeavors. Cycling, though, especially with the benefit of an e-bike, is one of the lowest impact, most accessible types of exercise that anybody can do. And that's why I recommend it to so many of my patients who, when they are disabled, for one reason or another. Osteoarthritis, cycling. Shoulder and back problems, cycling. Heart problems, lung problems, cycling. Social isolation, cycling. But even the folks that can't get on a bicycle, or feel they can't get on a bicycle, and want to get around via mobility scooter, can utilize the infrastructure. And that's the beauty of biking and walking infrastructure, is it can be used by multiple types of people in a variety of situations. Good morning. So, yeah, it's funny how people just they think they're throwing the their ace in the hole. They think they're throwing the trump card when they say, aha, but what about the elderly? And all that tells me is that people that say, what about the elderly, what about the disabled, have not until that point ever considered the elderly or disabled, which, it's funny, it makes their claims a bit disingenuous. But also, they just haven't thought it through. They haven't had the opportunity to think it through yet. And part of the reason they haven't thought it through is because the conversations don't occur. I ask myself, why do I argue with people online? Well, if they're people in my community, especially people that I know, and I know are otherwise reasonable and also potentially influential people, I feel like I need to have this conversation, because clearly, this morning, the person who said, what about the elderly, is a woman who's she's a cyclist, she's active in the community, she's smart, she's kind, she's I think an influencer in our community. And the fact that she's never had the opportunity or need to think more deeply about the concept of mobility in the elderly and how cycling might affect them in a positive way says that the conversation just doesn't happen. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to make it happen. I'm at work. Happy Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. It's going to be a busy one this morning. Morning. Dad yet? Yeah, I get my dad.